We're talking about the Pride Troopers and the Ginyu Force. Did the Pride Troopers copy the Ginyu Force? And who's better? So, what do you think? First thoughts.
Well, I know this is a big one for you because you're a big fan of the Ginyu Force.
I am. I'm a huge fan of the Ginyu Force.
I think anyone they can't. It has to be. Yeah, they are straight away. I mean, when I was looking it up, I mean that's not to say that there's anything directly wrong with the Pride Troopers because Ginyu Force are incredibly popular, but when I was actually looking this up, well, okay, they're not wrong just because they're arguably a copy. You may find them something wrong with them, but I don't think that's just the reason. But if you actually, I was looking it up, and when the Pride Troopers were introduced, one of the first things that was trending on Twitter was Ginyu Force.
Yep. Yeah.
Everyone was obviously saying it.
I mean, it is true though. Like, I mean, for Ginyu Force to trend on Japanese Twitter the first time the Pride Troopers were introduced, it goes to show that kind of everyone had the same opinion of like, is
Yeah.
this just Ginyu Force 2.0? Which, in a way, I kind of would think they are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, I was saying there that doesn't inherently make them bad, because, like I said, the part of the discussion is whether a copy is quite cut and dry. I would say yes. Where it gets down to the nitty gritty is, are they actually different?
Yeah.
So the concept's the same. I think we can all agree, but are they their own entity or are they just a carbon copy? And I think there's definitely enough there for them to be their own thing. And there are a lot of things I do like about the Pride Troopers.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the Pride Troopers as a whole, but the characters within. I would actually say that there are some characters that are within the Pride Troopers that are considerably better than the Ginyu Force characters.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There is some. You can also argue that the Pride Troopers are kind of like the Galactic Patrol, like their version of the Galactic Patrol for their universe, because they're all wearing the matching outfits, like full body outfits, similar. And yeah, I kind of agree where you're coming from with. You can argue that some are better, which they are. There's definitely some, but I've got a counter argument that at least, well, I know they made it hard with the I know I said the Galactic Patrol with the Pride Troopers because they had so many of them introduced all at once with 10 new characters just coming in and participating in the Tournament of Power, and they didn't have enough time to flesh them all out as much as the Ginyu Force. But the ones that they did, you can argue that they do have some uniqueness to them, which are better than the members of the Ginyu Force.
Well, I think 5 of the Pride Troopers or something are eliminated at the same time.
Yeah.
Or around the same time. If you think 18 eliminates one of them when they put themselves in a protective ball similar to 17's, she literally just picks up the ball and throws her out the ring.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell that they knew that they would have to just get rid of some.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes down to the Ginyu, there wasn't really that issue because there weren't as many. You weren't flooded as much with characters. However, obviously it was the Tournament of Power. You had to get rid of some people quickly.
Yeah.
Everybody had to have a lot of characters. So there was, and it seems like, to be honest, they just didn't want too much filler with them, which when it comes to Dragon Ball is very surprising because they love their filler.
Yeah, it's true. But I guess when you've got like 80, I think it was 80 characters in the Tournament of Power, it's hard to flesh out 80 characters all at once.
Yeah.
Even with so many episodes.
I think the Pride Troopers got a lot more focus, obviously, than a lot of other universes.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing because even from the normal 3, there are still some that get a little bit of attention, such as Carousel, Casserole, I think it's called.
Casserole, yeah.
The android
guy, yeah.
Yeah, like they don't get loads, but they still get a little something. And it's similar with the Ginyu Force. They don't all get a lot of exposition, but they all get their little moment in the sun.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of Ginyus that are not. they don't really mean anything to me. Like,
Ah,
you know,
all right,
um,
okay.
like I'm not saying they're bad. They just, when I think of the Frieza saga and I think of the Ginyu Force, they don't all make, like, the Ginyu Force just doesn't. The Ginyu Force as a whole is something I like, not necessarily the individuals.
Oof.
Like Raccoon, I'm not a huge fan of Raccoon. I just, he's just a big lughead, and his voice upsets me.
Yeah. Well, let's before we go in depth on each individual one, I have got every character from the Ginyu Force and the Pride Troopers written down. So let's just have a quick rundown of all the characters and all the abilities before going into individual ones. So
Fair.
let's start with the Ginyu Force. So we've got Guldo, who has psychic abilities. He can freeze time. He can freeze people in midair, all that type of stuff. We have Raccoon, who's the powerhouse with the high endurance. We've got Berta, who is the fast one. We've got Jace, who's the Ki Blast specialist guy, who's just got good aim and can fire Ki Blasts forever and ever. And we've got the captain, Ginyu, who his main ability is just that he can body swap, which is overpowered. But I definitely want to talk about that later. For the Pride Troopers, we have Toppo, Jiren, and Dispo, who are the main three. They've all got plenty of different abilities. Dispo being like the speedster of the group. Toppo being the team captain, I guess, and he's got super strength, and he turns into God of Destruction, all that jazz. We've got Jiren, who everyone knows about Jiren. He is Brock Lesnar on steroids, even more so. It is true. We've got Casserole, who we kind of mentioned already, the cyborg guy, who's very good with Ki and part cyborg, so he's kind of similar to the androids in a way. We've got Cocotte, who is the girl who made the shield around them, who doesn't really do anything else. We've got V1, who is the dinosaur-looking guy who did nothing of note at all. We have Tupper, who is the blue strong guy, who he can control his weight, and that was his downfall. He got eliminated because of his weight. He cracked the arena floor and he fell through. We've got Zwar, who was the small impish one, who did the Justice Spin, and that was pretty much it. He just span around a lot. Was pretty fast, I guess, but all he did was spin. We've got Kettle, who was the one who looks like a fish, who also did nothing of note at all. And we've got Kinshi, who was the blue frog-looking one, who he had the cool ability with the energy threads. When he saved Dispo, he threw them like energy threads down, which exploded. Yeah. That was pretty cool. But them are all the members. So you started talking about Raccoon a bit. You said you found him annoying. Yeah. Why?
Because he's just a big lughead, isn't he? I mean, there's not a lot to him. I mean, these are the sort of characters where I find them more interesting in Team 4-Star than in the actual show. Like they're the sort of ones that are built up more. They're kind of fleshed out more. Whereas I liked Berta and I like Captain Ginyu, and they just like, I like the speedster thing. It was a bit different, and I mean, but to be honest, when you think about it, Dispo is just Berta too.
Yeah, they copy the abilities. They tend to do that. Yeah. It's like when there's a fast one, it's like, oh, well, now I'm the fastest. Well, nope, there's a new villain now. I'm the fastest. If they just run out of ideas, it's like, well, give them speed. That's all they need.
But there's no way you can't say that they're not a copy. I mean, they have the pose and everything.
Yeah.
They just have a more extreme version. They all do a pose, except the Pride Troopers have fireworks in the background.
Yeah. So let's compare first introductions first, because there's a very, very big difference in their first on-screen appearances, which I want to talk about. So let's start with the Ginyu Force.
I know this as well.
Yeah. The Ginyu Force, in my opinion, okay, right, I'm throwing it out there. The Ginyu Force have the absolute best introduction in all of Dragon Ball. Okay? The first time they appear on the show is the best appearance of any character in the entire show. There is no better introduction than these. Their theme music, Toku Sentai, slaps. It is way too good for this minor group who, I guess at the time, they were considered like the the strongest people apart from Frieza. Like that's even mentioned that Frieza says they're the strongest people in his army apart from him. Um, and they show up, they appear in formation, coming out of their space pods, and they do their incredible introduction with the poses, introducing each character, go through one by one, pose, and bam, and then it just cuts to Frieza, and he's just staring at them, and he's blushing, he's embarrassed by them. But it's incredible. They spend like a solid 2 minutes going through their entire introductions with incredible music in the background. So good. And then the Pride Troopers, they appear, they kind of do something similar. They don't have a big, huge introduction like that. They all just go bam into their poses, and then poof, fireworks appear behind them, and that's kind of it.
I think the thing is though that they're not introduced that way if you think about it, because they do the big pause, the big bang. However, you meet some of them, you meet like 3 of them before that, so they kind of introduce them. They introduce a couple of the characters without introducing the pride, so they kind of scatter it.
I guess
you meet what is it, Dispo, Topo, and Casserole.
Yeah.
They all introduce themselves the Ginyu way. They shout out who they are and all this specialness. And then they do it again later, and it's like, and then they do 5 of them do it again by themselves later. It's very scattered.
Yeah.
So the Ginyu have done that better, definitely. Whether or not it's the best intro in all of Dragon Ball, I've got some thoughts on that, but I think we'll stay on topic. But
I mean, it is.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I've got something straight in my head for that that'll have to come up later.
Right.
But no, it is a very iconic turn up. But in terms of, I think the biggest difference is the Ginyu Force are just that. They're a Ginyu Force, whereas the Pride Troopers, whilst they are a troop, basically, they have their own characters who are focused enough to almost stand out where you could consider them their own outright character.
Yeah. I think that's kind of mentioned as well, how like the Ginyu Force are a group, they're a team, and that's their whole point. They go around together, they do everything together, they're a complete unit. They mesh well together. Whereas when the Tournament of Power first starts, I can't remember who exactly says it, but all of these people within the Pride Troopers were like these solo guys, and they don't work together. It's just when there's something that needs done, whoever's available goes out and deals with it, you know? Sometimes they'll go in groups if it's a bigger threat, but apart from that, they're kind of still solo. They're like an army, kind of, you know?
Yeah. Did you say it was Kinsey that was doing the traps?
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah. I mean, I did like when Kinsey and Dispo worked together against when they're fighting Hit and Goku.
Yeah.
I found that very interesting because they basically work together to try and protect each other. So I think they can work together when they need to and when they recognize, and they can stop each other from. So basically, Dispo got eliminated, except Kinsey saved him. He grabbed him with his threads and pulled him back in.
Yeah.
And then Toppo got involved to basically talk Dispo down because Dispo was battered. He was beaten, and he desperately wanted to get back in the fight and just keep fighting. Toppo had to reel him back in. So there is a team dynamic, and they do listen to their leader. But yeah, there is definitely so there's definitely a hierarchy in there that is listened to. But yeah, it's very militaristic. So it's like, you go solve a problem, please, and come back later. Whereas the Ginyu Force I can't think of any situations where they would do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there may be something in the wider manga that I'm not aware of, but I can't imagine that that's something they would do. I imagine they would solve problems together every time. But I think because of that, because the Pride Troopers' ability to go do their own thing, it allowed us to see a lot more of them. And I like that. Like, I know a lot more about, for instance, Dispo than I do Berta or Raccoon or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I know more about Top Bow than I do Captain Ginyu.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, probably not the same. Maybe a bit more, because Captain Ginyu does come come back later, and he does have a bit more to him because he comes back, he gets a new body and everything like that. He's a bit more involved, but yeah, I do like that component that we got more characters, even though it was just a group of people. And I did like that component because I do like Dispo and I do like Topo and Jiren to a degree. It's interesting that he was like, he was the. I think we discussed this last time that he shouldn't have been the main antagonist, but there's nothing wrong with him being a powerhouse. He could have he could have been the Pride Troopers Raccoon.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so because I saw so much of Toppo when he became a god of destruction, and I knew the motivations behind Toppo, like he's a man of justice, and Jiren called him out, saying, "You've basically forsaken everything that, all your principles, all your values."
Yeah.
So I actually recognized that, actually he has, and like that's
away.
not the sort of attachment that I got with the Ginyus. So I like that we saw more of the Pride Troopers to give us that. I mean, in the Ginyu's defense, we didn't have them as long.
Definitely not.
Yeah. And I think that's quite important. So I think whilst yes, they're a copy, they still have their own place.
Yeah,
definitely.
I do agree with that. And some extra backstory on the Ginyu Force, I guess, that you might not have known. Like for example, Rekum was a dancer, and that's where the whole extravagant side of the Ginyu Force comes in with all the poses and stuff. That was because of Rekum. When he was younger, he was a dancer, and he kind of brought that to the group. Berta became fastest in the universe at the time, I guess, because when he was younger, his mom used to beat him up when he was late for meals. So he used to run. Yeah. He used to run and get there as fast as possible, so then he didn't get beaten up, and that was the reason he became so fast. And for Jice, his whole thing was that he was a baseball pitcher, and he was used to throwing out the baseball all the time, and that's how he got good at ki blasts, just from that.
So he's basically the Yamcha of the Ginyu Force.
I guess in a way, yes. That would be interesting, Yamcha is he is the batsman, Jice is the pitcher. Let's see who... if they can work together on a baseball team, unstoppable. But there's a lot of uniqueness about the Ginyu Force, which I like. Like I'm always, because like you said at the start, I am a huge fan of the Ginyu Force. I think they're incredible. They're one of the most memorable groups of Dragon Ball, without them even being a main bad guy. Like they're definitely higher up than, let's say, Dabura or Babidi in the villain stature.
We remember them, but do we care? Is kind of the thing.
Yes, is the answer. Yes, we do care.
Yeah.
I care.
I mean, do we care about Dabura or Babidi?
That's true.
Like the Ginyu are like, they're popular. It's like we remember them all, but we don't care to remember the others where the Ginyu have a place.
Yeah. I mean, let's think of it this way. Like, if you compared power levels, for example, yes, of course, the Pride Troopers completely would destroy them, no effort at all. Because Vegeta single-handedly kills every member of the Ginyu Force. And then when the Ginyu Force are in heaven and they go to King Kai's planet, Yamcha beats Rekum on his own. Tien beats Berta and Jice on his own, and Chaozu beats Goldo, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can see that their power levels have significantly been nerfed, I guess. Because when they were first introduced, Vegeta was scared of them. They're like, oh god, no, it's Ginyu Force, quick, hide, this type of thing. I mean, yes, Vegeta does kill them all, but they put up a big fight, they nearly beat Piccolo, Krillin and Gohan. So yeah.
I think it also have to remember, to be fair on the whole power level thing, they had all been training with King Kai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like when Goku trained with King Kai, he became Goku. So it makes sense that Tien and Yamcha and everyone was considerably stronger by the time the Ginyu got to them. So to be fair, yeah, in the Z Warriors defense, but no, I think that's also something very interesting is we understand more about the Ginyu Force and where their power lies because that was before power levels became almost redundant.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah,
The next person is the new strongest, and that's how it's always going to be. There's never ever going to
yeah.
be someone who's a bad guy who's not strong anymore for any reason. But
I
yeah,
think the only way these days that I know if someone's particularly strong is when they appear. Vegeta and Goku go when they get the tingle, the king. You hear the key tingle noise, and they all look and go, "What's that power?"
yeah,
Like that's all that tells me if someone's strong, and that's exactly what they do when the Pride Troopers teleport in.
mm,
It's exactly that. That's the only way I can tell if someone's strong.
yeah.
Um, there is no number attached to it, really.
It's true. I mean, apart from the main, I guess, four Pride Troopers, the rest of them, though, you can argue, are pretty worthless and not memorable. Like,
Yeah,
obviously Topo, Jiren, Dispo, and what was his name again? Kasserole. They're all
yeah.
memorable. The four main ones, I guess. But everyone else, not so much. They
I
didn't
would
do
say
much.
Kinsey as well
I
has
can
his
see a
own
little
place.
bit, but yeah,
Yeah,
just because he's got a unique attack. Um,
I think yeah, not as much as the main four. I would say definitely not.
hmm,
But I would definitely say he still has a place there because of how he engages in the fight. He gets involved. Um, so I think he does have it. But yeah, I would say as a whole, the Pride Troopers. I couldn't remember what a good chunk of them looked like before we started looking into this. Before we were going to have the chat,
yeah,
I had to go
exactly.
look it up. Their names definitely were gone.
Yeah.
I could not remember any of the names. Um, I think one of the interesting things I do find about the Pride Troopers is they have it set as a hierarchy basically for where they're going to find their gods of destruction.
Hmm,
Because Belmod used to be in the Pride Troopers,
yeah.
which I found very interesting when I was looking into it.
Hmm,
Um, and again, it's expanded on in the manga, I believe, where basically Belmod just didn't like the fact of like he didn't like that it was like just I believe it was justice. He just thought he should be able to be powerful enough,
hmm,
and he thought it wasn't a good reason, and he just walked away. Um,
yeah.
and I thought that was really interesting because they then did that later. They used Top as the next setup, as the next one.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it put hit the dumb ideas about the importance of teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
And
Um, and I think that kind of reinforces what you were saying about the Pride Troopers, where they don't necessarily all work together.
hmm,
Um, but yeah, basically they have Belmod. That's where they got the first, well, not the first, but their current God of Destruction, and then they've got Top set up for next. So it's kind of a set place.
yeah.
Because I was looking and and it was the leaders of the Ginyu Force. And it's referencing things like King Cold and Frieza, because there was the Cold Force,
Yeah.
which yeah. So there's kind of something similar,
Hmm.
but not exactly the same because Captain Ginyu's never going to be the leader of like everything, is he?
That's true.
Well, especially now, but I don't think it was ever planned. Whereas they had that set thing, which is quite interesting to me.
Yeah.
Uh, where it's like because Universe 7 doesn't have anything like that. Uh, Whis is trying to twist Vegeta's arm into doing it. Um, like when he agreed to train him.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of something Whis is hinting at. He wants one of these guys for the Gods of Destruction,
Hmm.
but he doesn't know how to do it, I don't think, yet. That's another discussion.
It is. Yeah,
Um,
it is.
yeah, big discussion. Um, so I think that, yeah, having that mechanic, I suppose, is very interesting to me.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, when it comes down to it, I think the Ginyu sin shit as being better based on the fact of how memorable they are.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you can't not agree that they're copies, that they're inspired,
Hmm.
let's say, But I think due to the Ginyu Force, and also because they're so much earlier, they cemented their place early on into the heart of a lot of young people who were viewing when Z first came about.
Yeah.
There hadn't been anything like that, whereas you've already had it, so when the Pride Troops come, it's not really as interesting. You kind of think, just like Japanese Twitter did,
compare it straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they did try and like separate them a bit more, I guess. Like every other universe didn't get compared because they were all unique looking. Even the Ribrian universe, even though they were all kind of like a team, they had their own unique designs. They weren't compared to anyone. Even though you can compare them directly to the Ginyu Force because they also have the theatrics with their intros and all that stuff.
Respect the pause.
Yeah, maybe the outfits did just go too far because obviously the Ginyu Force all wear the armor, the Frieza armor, but you know the Pride Troopers all have the same red and black like bodysuits. Is it enough of a comparison? Well, obviously it was because everyone seemed to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess if you look at characters individually, you know, obviously not everyone on the Pride Troopers is memorable, like you've said, and not many of them have that many memorable moments. Even their uniqueness, like based on their powers and the things they can do, their attacks, there's nothing too special about a lot of them. Even Casserole, he is just a cyborg guy who's good with ki. Like his abilities wise, he's not very unique. He looks cool, I guess, but unique wise, not so much. Dispo, even he's just fast again, not too unique with his powers. You can only really argue that Toppo and Jiren were unique with their powers. Whereas the Ginyu Force at the time, you know, Guldo with his telekinesis, psychic abilities, that was unique. And you haven't really seen anyone on the same level, apart from maybe Hit to an even bigger degree with the time skip and all that stuff. But Guldo was kind of like the original. You know, he was good at it as well for a little while. And the one who stands out the most to me, who is arguably maybe the strongest person out of everyone, is Captain Ginyu. And the reason why is for his simple ability of the body swap. It is extremely overpowered, and he obviously doesn't use it well, but he is the scariest person who you can come up against because he can literally just steal your body at any moment or steal anyone's body. And it's hard to stop.
He steals boners as a frog.
Yeah. It's really difficult to stop as well. You know, obviously it doesn't work every time because you know I got interrupted with the frog thing. But you know, if you came up against Captain Ginyu and he was being a bit smart or caught someone off guard, you can just take your body, and that's kind of enough to make him a massive, massive threat. Which is interesting to think about. Like, imagine if you know it was like a 5-on-5 matchup, Pride Troopers versus Ginyu Force, and Captain Ginyu instantly just body swapped with Jiren. It's like, okay, is this game over just like that? Like the rest of the Ginyu Force, like, they're gonna get wiped out.
Any limitations? Yeah. Are there any limitations? Because Goku's stronger than Captain Ginyu, yeah, and he still managed to body swap because that's why body swaps.
Yeah.
So it's like, could he have used it on Frieza?
Potentially.
I mean, like, yeah. It's I don't think they expand on it enough to say. I mean, they may. I'll be honest, I've never seen if they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to what degree does that stop?
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting where you get a lot from Toppo because obviously he goes down the God of Destruction route and you learn a lot about him, and I think that makes him a very interesting character. You get a lot from that. However, with Captain Ginyu, you get his arc of where he's taking over Goku and all that, but that's to the point where he actually manages to come back in a different series. Never mind, like he's in Super. So the Z's ended, and it's Super. That's how far he comes, and he becomes a new person. And yeah, he's killed pretty much straight away. But it's the fact that he's always there, and you always see the frog. He's always bouncing about at some point.
And he does have that one line with Frieza where once he transforms, he turns to Frieza and says, "I'll take them out for disrespecting the mighty Ginyu Force." And you're like, "Oh, okay." And then he dies. But, he's back, and it's like, "Oh, it's Captain Ginyu. He's back." But yeah, obviously, like you said,
And then he
didn't
gets
last long.
straight up murdered.
Yeah, by Vegeta. So he does kill all of them. But
No,
yeah,
I would agree that the Ginyu cinch it, but I would say it would be unfair to say that it's just a cut out carbon copy. I think there's enough for them to stand on their own.
Definitely. And I will protect the Ginyu Force till the end of time. They are great. They are worthy. They're an incredible group, and the Pride Troopers are just rip-ups.